Good morning and a very warm welcome to Charles De Gaulle International Airport, where today we're going to be flying with Air France aboard their Boeing 777 in their new business class all the way through to Seoul. So nice long flight today, 14 hours or so expecting. Really looking forward to this one. We've never done Air France long haul on the channel together, so what better way to kick it off than to do business class with them. So without further ado, we'll transit here through Paris Charles De Gaulle and get on board. Stay tuned. Well, this has been my second time transiting through CDG in the last few weeks, and I have to say it was just as good an experience as the last. Everything seemed to flow nicely, wasn't too long a walk and didn't seem too many people. It was nicely within its limits, and it wasn't long before I was on through to security. Once I came into a different sub-terminal from the one that I eventually departed out from, it was nice and easy getting between them. It was this little monorail journey. I actually found it quite fun, cruising over the various different concourses. From there, you then did have to clear security if you were connecting from another flight. And from then, I was very much looking forward to checking out the lounge. So busy times connecting here at Charles de Gaulle. Thankfully, they have priority security, so it won't be long before we're through. Of course, being in Paris, the home airport of Air France, I couldn't wait to get through to the lounge itself. It was always going to be their global flagship offering, or at least I was hoping to find that particular one. The first one that I came across, they called the Salon Lounge. The name was very apt. So how was it going to be? Let's jump on in and see exactly what it was like. As I walked through, the first impressions were absolutely stunning. I loved the inclusion of the various different trees and various different elements of fauna in the lounge. As soon as I headed in, I went straight through to the food and beverage options. I know that that's as an important factor for all of you as it is for me, so let's see exactly what that was like. As I got into the lounge, the lunch was just starting to be rolled out, so they were a little bit between both dishes. Overall, the food and drinks looked really good. It was those little extras that I thought looked particularly good. Yes, you'd expect a very good bread selection as part of an Air France lounge, but they definitely didn't fail here to deliver. The lounge itself was really sizable. I quite liked these little charging points with a nice view out over the concourse itself. As I got a little bit further into the lounge, I enjoyed many of the really decent views. As you get into different parts of the lounge, there's different food and drink stations, so if you are using this lounge and the first station is particularly busy, just walk on to one of the many other ones. You may well find that's an awful lot quieter, and it was definitely the case on the lounge on this afternoon. As you'd expect for a lounge this size, it had a decent business centre. This was just in the very open area. Loved these seats, loved the big desk, particularly if I was looking to get any work done. That would be a really good place to head. This was one of the main food stations that I then came onto, and I couldn't wait to get stuck in. Now, if you really thought I was going to come to an Air France lounge and not try the wine, you must be absolutely mad. So, whilst it's barely beyond midday, we're going to go for a glass of the red and see exactly what it's like. It's well worth mentioning that the staff was so helpful, so friendly in the lounge, so top marks to Air France on that front. I'm pouring myself here a glass of the Chateau something or other, and then taking it through to the relaxation area to enjoy and see exactly what the first glass of red wine was going to be like with Air France, and of course the first of many. So, we're in the relaxation area. The moment of truth has arrived. Let's see. Cheers. Just up next to the relaxation area, this is where you'll find the all-important showers. Sadly, on that afternoon, I was really tight in terms of connection, barely had enough time really to jump in the lounge and show you all around, so didn't have time for a shower. We'll have to leave that to the next visit, but undoubtedly they would have been really nice. Well worth saying the lounge was wonderfully new, so I'm sure those shower facilities would have been really very good indeed. Well, it was a brief but very enjoyable time in the lounge. That was beautifully modern. Hope you enjoyed that. For now, heading off to the flight. So yeah, we'll get on board and see what business class is like aboard the 777 with Air France. Thankfully, the gate itself wasn't far from the lounge at all. As we do walk through just here, you can get an idea for just how modern this terminal is. I was really very impressed once again with Paris Charles De Gaulle. So we're very shortly be jumping aboard this 777 to Seoul. Quick note for the new viewers, I guess, to the channel. If this is your very first time tuning in, I've got so much on the channel from the likes of Air France and so many other airlines. So if you hit that subscribe button, YouTube will help you stay up to date with the very latest developments as the videos go out weekly on the channel. For now, let's jump on board this flight. I'm pretty hungry for lunch, so let's get on. The boarding process itself was fairly well managed. The gate crew did a fantastic job. They weren't helped though by the fact that there was some really bad weather around and we were held in the jet bridge for about 30 or so minutes. I do think, however, that couldn't have been completely avoided. So what then for this Air France new-ish 777 business class cabin? Well, I was seated in a middle seat. It was row 7. There's 2 cabins in total. I went for the front of those 2 cabins. Seats itself were really quite nice. We'll jump into that and have a bit of a look in a moment, but do try, I would say, to get a window seat. Middle seat would be okay for couples if you are going for one of those window seats. However, don't go for row 7. It was missing, sadly, a window. So what then for my first impressions in the cabin? Overall, really good. I thought it looked smart. I liked the colour palette, seats laid out in a 1-to-1 formation, as we've already seen. Those middle seats, as mentioned for couples, that big privacy divider will come down, so it wouldn't make too bad a space. A little bit tight getting into the suite. You can see there that my suitcase wouldn't have been able to have been rolled in. Otherwise though, a pretty decent first impression from Air France. Alrighty, so that's us on board. Slightly chaotic boarding process, but at last we're on board. Sadly, couldn't get a window seat today. They're around 70 or so pounds to book in advance, and I just couldn't stomach it. To be honest, I'm so used to being able to book it ahead with status and other fare types. So sucks a little bit. I have asked the staff to see if we can move. So fingers crossed. There's no show in the next couple of minutes. For now, first impressions, cabin looking really good, but we'll head on over to some more of my footage, and you can decide for yourself and let me know in the comments below. Alrighty, so let's get exploring this cabin. First off, really nice big footrest, nice and wide, had no issues whatsoever. Thinking ahead to the bed in sleeper mode, just up to the side you had a little coat hook, so that was quite nice to see that little feature just there. The seat itself had some slippers, but sadly no pyjamas in that bag. There was the blanket and also a very large pillow. Just to your side, as you've seen with a number of suites of this design, large vanity area, space enough for a water bottle, the entertainment headset, and also the all-important mirror just there. Some chargers below, and we'll check those out, I promise, in just a moment. What you also had up here was a controller for the entertainment system, and also some additional lighting just there was one of many charging options as part of the seat design. One critique I did have was just how clean this side table was. It all felt a little bit grubby just up to the side, and for an aircraft that had been sat at its home destination for some time, it's really very poor. That's something they definitely need to have a look at. One plus point, however, was the sheer amount of charging options, as you'd have seen just there, and also the individual reading lights just above the seat itself. Sadly, no individual air vents, but overall pretty decent on that front. I think one aspect that came across was the feeling of quality. There was a lot of leather wrapping the seat when I compare this to British Airways' new Club Suite design, for example, which all feels a little bit plasticky or feels like something that may not last. This just had a feeling of quality. It was leather. It just felt built to last. Overall, in terms of the seat design, top marks, I would say, just here to Air France. Alrighty, so that's me settling in with Air France. Unfortunately, 45 or so minute delay just due to the bad weather here at Paris, but all that's really to do is just to sit back and drink champagne. It's a hard life, really. Cheers. That's good. Really good. It really was a superb little drop of champagne. There were so many refills that were coming around. I guess you'd expect that from the French national carrier, but top marks on that front. One little aspect to mention as part of row 7 for the inboard seat is the fact that the overhead locker is really very small. So if you are someone that likes to travel with a lot of personal luggage, that may be an aspect to think about just there as well. After an hour or so on the tarmac, we were finally starting to push back. The pre-departure service was still coming around. I had a nice little hot towel, but otherwise I will leave it to my fantastic entertainment screen in front of me to guide us out of Paris Charles De Gaulle. So I'll turn down the music so you can enjoy this takeoff. For those who are as passionate as I am about flying will know just how much it sucks, sadly, not to get the window seat. Thankfully, on this occasion, the quality of those external cameras was so good it still made the takeoff experience nice and special. As we get settled here into the flight, first off, we'll visit the bathrooms. There's a number of different choices, bathrooms to the front of the cabin and also bathrooms to the rear, so let's jump on up and see what they're like. The bathroom we're checking out just here was at the front of the cabin. I was really impressed by the size of it. It gave plenty of additional space to get changed in. Quite liked how the bathroom itself was put together. There was a few little lotions and potions on display to make it look that little bit more special. So overall, a pretty good start for Air France just here. Back in the seat, let's first off take a look at the entertainment system. In terms of the handheld device, if any of you are familiar with driving Lexus cars, this was really very similar. It was kind of like a touchpad style of design. It worked pretty well, but to be honest, the suite wasn't so big that you couldn't just lean forward and make the most of this excellent touchscreen. In terms of the choice, yeah, loads of different options just here for you, both in terms of TV and also movie options. A little bit later into the flight, I watched The Avengers and that worked pretty well. In terms of the headset, this felt of real quality, but actually I never found it quite loud enough during the flight, so that was perhaps something to have a look at. I didn't know if there was a bit of an issue with mine. Otherwise, in terms of Bluetooth, that was also an option for hooking up, I would assume, your own headset, so this may well be something to consider bringing, particularly if you're a big fan of that audio quality. And finally, the all-important Wi-Fi. Air France had a range of different options just here. Thankfully, Wi-Fi is becoming more and more common on long-haul flights. First off, they had a messaging package. This was completely free of charge throughout the duration of the flight, so I thought this was really very good indeed. Beyond that, there was a Surf Pass. This would have covered you for browsing various different web pages. Beyond that was then a Stream Pass for the fastest internet for streaming of video content, etc. That was actually the one that I opted for this flight. It was €38, so really very expensive, and unfortunately it wasn't very good throughout the duration of the flight, so a bit of a thumbs down from me on that front. And I know getting an idea of perspective within the suite itself is important to everyone that watches these videos, so I popped my suitcase in there in the end just so you can get a bit of an idea. Overall, really wonderfully private suite. We'll see that more in action in a moment, but a little bit tight getting in. That suitcase just there, I have had questions about them recently. It's from brands called Level 8. This is a Zip Plus suitcase. Took a bit of getting used to, but actually I really enjoy it. Next up, let's take a moment to check out the all-important Amenity kit. Overall, I thought the bag that was presented in was of a nice size, nicely designed. The kit itself was kind of okay. I think they'd gone for a little bit of an eco kind of approach with the toothbrush and a couple of the other elements. Some of them looked a little bit clinical in terms of the lotions and potions there compared to a Qatar Airways Amenity kit, for example, a couple of steps behind, but it had everything that you needed for a long-haul flight, so as ever, they were nice to get. The table in the seat was nice and easy to fold out. It was nice and firm, so top points on that front as well. Next up, let's take a look at the menus. These were handed round, and frankly, they were absolutely massive. I've never received such a large menu card in a business class cabin. Turning open onto the front page, a nice little overview of the chefs that had inputted onto the menu and what a menu it was. The main service on that flight was to be a lunch and a dinner. There were 4 choices from a main course point of view. This was more than I've ever seen on any business class flight before, far more akin to something you'd expect to see in the first class cabin. On the first service was then a full breakfast to look forward to the next morning, so I promise we'll do that together. But for now, I was getting pretty hungry. It was a good time to check out the wines and see what I was going to be pairing with the various different courses. You know I love it, so let's jump straight in and see exactly what this lunch/dinner service was going to be like with Air France. Before the starter was brought around, I had a glass of the white wine and also a selection of amuse-bouche. A nice start to the lunch service. So white wine with Air France. Here we go. It's good. It's really good. To kick things off, I went with the shredded lobster. It tasted so much better than it even looks. This was then accompanied by a beautiful warm baguette. They had so many of these going around the cabin. I must say the service was absolutely phenomenal. They had so many cabin crew in the cabin, each doing their own little individual thing. Frankly, it was like eating at a Michelin-star restaurant in terms of the frequency of the service. A really, really good start from Air France. Everything from the presentation to the small details on the cutlery really worked nicely. In terms of a bit of a mid-course, there was a miso soup. This was a nod, I guess, to some of the Asian flavours on board. Although it wasn't presented brilliantly, it tasted absolutely wonderful and led nicely into my main course, which was to be the chicken. Accompanying that chicken dish was a glass of the Air France red wine. I couldn't wait to taste what was to be their flagship business class red wine, so let's see how it goes. Yeah, that was without doubt one of the best glasses of red wine I've had in the sky for quite some time. It was a great pairing to the cheese that then followed, and that was only really the start of the dessert experience, you could say. That was followed up with a chocolate baton, which was beautifully presented and went down very nicely indeed. Well, I say end, there was one final surprise in store. I went for a glass of the Armagnac. I'd never really had it before. I thought it was going to be like Disaronno, and you can see here there was a little bit of a shock, perhaps an expletive or two, so I had to mute out the main soundtrack just there. It's a bit of a shock to the system, frankly. It tasted as though it could have powered the engines from there. The sun was quickly setting, and my thoughts, however, were turning towards a nice couple of hours rest. Some of the details in the cabin really did start to look very attractive indeed as the lights started to go down. I shut that big sweet door. It really did make it a really nice private space. And then as for the bed itself, yeah, I thought this was really good, nice and long. There wasn't too much overhang from the entertainment screen as you get, making it feel like a bit of a foot tunnel that your feet go down. Overall, really nice and comfy. I loved these little numbers on the sides of the seats. It was a really nice cabin decor as the lights went down. Inside the bed itself, wonderfully private. You can see a bit of a POV style view here. You can say that sweet door doing an awful lot of work, and overall everything going down very nicely indeed. See here, as mentioned, loads of room for my feet. So without further ado, I'm going to take a couple of hours rest and I'll see you on the other side. I woke up to see that we'd made fantastic progress over Central Asia, and we were quickly steaming towards our final destination, which was to be Seoul. Thankfully, I woke up just before the breakfast service kicked off, so let's jump into it. It was either a mushroom and spinach flan, as I had just here, or a salmon muffin choice. I opted for the spinach flan. This was the warm option that was offered. A good selection of other bits and pieces. The croissants, as you'd expect, were absolutely fantastic. Spinach flan, it was so-so, but overall, for an airline breakfast, even in the business class, this was pretty good, all washed down by a nice glass of fresh orange juice. The breakfast service was then finished off by another freshen up towel. I thought the timing of this was absolutely wonderful and got me nice and fresh for landing into Seoul. So what then about my thoughts with Air France? Well, frankly, I was expecting about 6.5 to 7 out of 10 with them. I think they slightly over-delivered. Yes, there were some downsides with the grubbiness of the seat that we saw, but overall the seat design I thought was really good. The service from the crew was impeccable throughout the duration of the flight, and I thought the catering was some of the best that I've ever experienced when flying business class. Really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you're looking to fly international business class in the immediacy, don't do so first without checking out my recent business class reviews from British Airways and Qatar Airways. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching today's video. I'll see you in another one real soon.